Good afternoon. Had a couple things to share. I'm back at Wash Park. Just went for a nice little walk. And been doing some thinking. Um, One of the things on my mind has been this. What is it? This like background worry about my YouTube videos. I think I'm comparing myself to the period in Spain when it was like every day felt like there was something new to talk about, having good conversations, meeting interesting people, and I felt like I was able to output more interesting ideas. And I'm finding again that I'm somewhat struggling. Maybe not struggling, but it's like nothing immediately comes to mind. And so it hasn't been a big thing on my mind, but I think what has frustrated is not the right word. What's been on my mind is when I think about making a video, it takes more time to think about what I want to talk about. And I don't think I think it's partially the external, but I don't think it's all external. The fact that, you know, I'm not getting the same feedback or views or whatever as when I was in Spain or really Southeast Asia as well. So anyway, that point aside, I think on my walk, I was just thinking like, it seems like this chapter is more about processing than output. And I think I need to accept that. I think I need to accept that YouTube still is not my priority. And that it's okay to go back to the early days of just throwing the phone up, hitting record, and just talking about whatever and just processing thoughts. I think that's okay. And the next time I'm in an environment where I'm having conversations, meeting people, or interacting more in communities, or I'm in Southeast Asia, like whatever, then lean into that period as outputting more. So anyway, that was one thing on my mind. The other thing that I was thinking about is I touched on this very briefly, like one sentence in the blog post that I wrote today. I wanted to talk about the situation that I'm in with the YouTube API team and waiting for the quota increase application. For context, for anyone new, I submitted application to audit and increase my API quota for the software that I'm building. But I did that on August 6th. And the last site that I made and did the same process, it took maybe 1 to 2 weeks. It's probably been 6 weeks now. And communication has been I don't know what the right word is. There hasn't been a lot of communication. My understanding is that they are waiting for leadership. It is pending leadership approval or something of the sort. And so that's put me in this position where the temporary quota that I was using with multiple API projects, which technically violated the terms of service, and they shut those down, has meant that I can't really do much in terms of pulling new data. And with not a lot of communication, it's hard to know when this will resolve and how it will resolve. And so I feel a little bit of this sense of what's the word? Like I don't have control over this situation. Mixed with the uncertainty of I don't know how they will respond. They haven't said that I'm violating any of their terms of service besides the multiple API projects, which they did on my last site almost immediately after submitting because I didn't have my own terms of service. And so that leads me to believe that what I'm doing, my application, is by the book, okay, like following the rules. And the question is, what are we waiting for? And I think I'm gonna email them tomorrow and just ask for an update again. But I don't think this is totally true, but I think I feel this sense of like helplessness or something like that. And I want to make sure, what I wanted to think through is I want to make sure that I'm not leaning into the helplessness as an excuse. And I don't think I am, but I'm worried that my mindset is like, oh, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. I can't do anything. And in the meantime, I mean, I've been doing things. I've been working on what I can, which is why I said I don't think this is fully true of just like helplessness waiting for something to happen. But I guess the question is, what are the possible outcomes? I envision the best case scenario is basically they're just going to email me back and say, hey, you're approved. You're good to go. Like, leadership looked at your thing. You're good to go. And it was just some like legality of or technicality of how much quota I'm asking for or like what I'm doing with the data that the API team couldn't approve and that they had to escalate it to leadership. So best case scenario, they say I'm approved. I'm gonna have to apply and ask for more quota, which is unfortunate. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that's further down the line. The scenario I'm worried about is that they reject or somehow say that basically I can no longer continue to use my API client. And I think when I think about this scenario, you have to think about the probability of that case, because I think it's low and there's more nuance to it. Like, I think the probability of having to shut down my app in its entirety is very low. The probability of them saying, hey, this part of your software, this calculation, this data, this process, uh, we're not allowing. That I think has a higher probability, which means that I will still be able to work on my software and fix whatever they need fixed. So I still think that's potentially low, but it's definitely higher. I don't know, 20%, 25%, like whatever. Um, I think the reason I wanted to bring this up was, and think through this was, I'm I'm worried that basically the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm working on will be axed. Kind of like I built this creator relevance scoring algorithm, and I really started with that. And then it wasn't until Asheville, North Carolina, whenever that was, July something, when I actually read the terms of service and it said that scoring channels violates the terms of service. And I just remember, I think it was either that morning or the morning before, I had spent like 3 hours tweaking the weights of my composite relevance scoring function. And that time was basically just wasted. And I worry about that situation on a larger scale of like, oh, the last 6 weeks were wasted and I don't have a path forward. And I think the probability of that is low. That was my point earlier, where I think, sure, there's a small probability that I have to fix some things based on what leadership says, which I don't know how that would differ. Again, part of what makes this so difficult is the uncertainty and lack of information. Like, I just don't know what I'm waiting for. And that's kind of what I'm going to try to ask tomorrow. Email them and just see if I can get just at least some more information. So the other thing I was thinking about on my walk was, like, what would someone do that wants it? What would someone do that's, a successful entrepreneur? How would they navigate this situation? I guess back to the scenarios. So I can't handle more users, but I do have feedback, and there are things that I can do to improve my software and the UI in the meantime without needing quota. And that's what I've been doing. The question is that the best use of my time? Maybe I won't have an answer on this video. It'll take longer, but I'm thinking back to the basically scenarios and options. Under each scenario, I guess, what would be the best thing to do? If they come back and say, hey, you're approved, What would have been the best thing to do? Knowing that I can't handle more users, but I have feedback and things that I can do and add in the meantime. I would think it would be adding the most valuable things, addressing the most valuable feedback that doesn't need quota. Because then it's like everything is set. The foundation is set. I can just, when I get more quota, scale everything up. And when I get more quota, I will be reaching back out to users and doing more reach outs and getting more people into the software. And so I think I'm probably going to have to fix my search. My search algorithm right now takes like 20 minutes. And I don't like it from a UI UX perspective. But it's fine if I can pre-run on people's handles. Then it's fine. So, but I will need to. I would need to fix that or figure out some workaround when I scale up from one-to-one reach outs and people start landing on my site just like without having messaged me beforehand. So that's one thing. But the other UI things that I'm working on are kind of that like foundational stuff. One of the things I need quota for is scaling up the outlier generation and gathering for videos. See, this is a good point because if I had more quota right now, I would still have to update the UI because having more videos wouldn't fix the current problems. And so this is something interesting to think about, is that if we assumed that I had more quota right now, like today, what would I be doing? Probably reaching out, getting more users to use it, and then adding and addressing their feedback. And so I'm kind of doing that. And the thing that I'm working on right now is improving the Video Explorer page, basically. And all of that is essentially UI work. So that's that. If they say that I have to fix some things, I think I just have, right now, I just have to follow the terms of service and address anything that they come up with. I don't think there's any way to plan for that. And the chance that they just axe my API client entirely, I think is just so low. There's one thing that I could think of that's non-standard that I haven't seen other products and softwares doing. And maybe that's why leadership has to be involved in this. Other than that, I don't see any. Let me rephrase. Everything else that I'm doing, I can see examples of other softwares out there doing that, which makes me think if they're doing that, then I can too. Except for just one thing. Though I don't know There's some other features that do something similar. I just don't know what they're using in the back end. So, anyway, I think that's enough for today. I'm feeling more motivated to kind of get everything else aligned and just continue to chip away at this. And when I say get everything else aligned, I do also mean that kind of on a more macro scale of like, I mean, this is more micro, but like, do I have groceries? Do I need to do laundry? Which I need to do laundry, but like life admin stuff, as well as just like micro and macro life admin stuff that are the foundation. Get those things over with. I think that's probably the best use of my time as well. Because in theory, there won't be another situation where I'm waiting this long without being able to do anything, if that makes sense. And so, and that's one of the reasons why I did the motorcycle course this week, was it's like, well, there are only so many things that I can do in the meantime. And so if we flip the script and say I do have more quota and I have the ability to reach out to people, then that would be the highest priority. So anyway. Oh. Getting back to processing and be okay with it. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.